The Nowman Show Special Black History Month.
We must honestly admit certain things and get rid of certain myths that have constantly been disseminated all over our nation. One is the myth of time. It is the notion that only time can solve the problem of racial injustice. And there are those who often sincerely say to the Negro and his allies in the white community, why don't you slow up? Stop pushing things so fast. Only time can solve the problem. And if you will just be nice and patient and continue to pray, in 100 or 200 years, the problem will work itself out. Well, that is an answer to that myth. It is that time is neutral. It can be used either constructively or destructively. I'm sorry to say this morning that I'm absolutely convinced that the forces of ill will in our nation, the extreme rightists of our nation, the people on the wrong side, have used time much more effectively than the forces of goodwill. And it may well be that we will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the vitriolic words and the violent actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence and indifference of the good people who sit around and say, wait on time. Somewhere we must come to see that human progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. Comes through the tireless efforts and the persistent work of dedicated individuals who are willing to be co-workers with God. And without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the primitive forces of social stagnation. So we must help time and realize that the time is always right to do right.
We have some very bright, important, bright moments in our history. We had abolitionists.
Yes.
You know, we had Tom Paine before that.
Yes.
We had people who would tell us the truth and would work for progress. We had Martin Luther King, who, by the way, everybody forgets, because now Martin Luther King is a cold statue in Washington, but I published Martin Luther King in Ramparts Magazine. I knew Martin Luther King, and I was in the South during some of the civil rights stuff. I was just one obviously of many, many people. But everybody forgets Martin Luther King's speech at Riverside Church in New York, where he said, how do I tell a young kid in the ghetto to shun violence when my government is the major purveyor of violence in the world today? Martin Luther King.
Yeah. Okay,
he was talking about the massive bombing, carpet bombing in Vietnam, and he based it, by the way, on reading Ramparts Magazine and an article we had about those atrocities. And so let's not forget, you know, that the good people, so-called, the lesser evil people, have created a lot of evil in this world.
yes.
The condition of truth is always to allow suffering to speak. Suffering from wherever it comes. We are an inclusive group. Yes. Tea Party brothers and sisters look like the audience for Lawrence Welk in the National. I ain't got nothing against Lawrence Welk and Bubble. But we look more like an audience for Lupe Fiasco. Or we look more like an audience for Carole King and James Taylor. Yeah, we look more like an audience for Prince. That's the kind of audience we got. Yes, we cut against the grain, but it's our common humanity. So yes, we are open to prophetic Mormon brothers and sisters if they believe that corporate greed ought to be eliminated. That's right. Give the prophetic Mormon brothers and sisters a hand right now if they want to come here and join the movement. We here for the progressive agnostic and atheistic brothers and sisters. Come and join the movement. That's right. Even for prophetic black Baptists like myself. That's why I'm here too. And I saw a picture of Brother Martin Luther King Jr. Put it back up again. Show Brother Martin. Where's Brother Martin? Somebody put Brother Martin's picture up. That's part of our legacy too. For our prophetic Jewish brothers and sisters, come and fight corporate greed. This is part of the movement. Our Muslim brothers and sisters, come join the movement. Buddhist brothers and sisters, come join the movement. We cut against the grain. So don't let anybody tell you that we just a shadow of a Tea Party movement. Hell no! No way! And not only that, but we are international because corporate greed cuts across national boundaries, and we know we got to cut radically against the grain, and that's why it's a blessing for me to be here.
Now, you, of course, did an Academy Award-winning film. We're going to talk about that, of course. But you received 3 Grammy nominations for the soundtracks of 3 of the films. One was called Muddy Waters Can't Be Satisfied. I saw him make his comeback when he warmed up for Eric Clapton on my 21st birthday, actually. I had to put that in there. Respect Yourself, the Stax Records Story, and Johnny Cash's America. And I saw Johnny at the end of his live career. Let's watch a trailer right now of Respect Yourself.
The whole evolution of Stax was a parallel to what was happening in the civil rights movement.
We were an upstart company that had the audacity to be integrated.
We weren't in there doing things to prove that we were black and they were trying to prove they were white. We were in there proving that music is a sentiment of a man's soul.
We were doing the kind of music that was unheard of. It was a combination of gospel and blues and country.
And it's raw, gritty, gutsy soul. We had hit records. It was like great apples falling off a tree.
It changed everybody's perception of themselves. None of us had ever been paid that much attention.
Otis became that power-packed, raw, gutsy, emotional, serious performer. I mean, you felt him, you heard the tear in his voice.
I've been loving you.
He said, well, they're all gone. I said, what do you mean gone? He said, they're gone. They all went in the lake up in Wisconsin.
And I hollered to them, call an ambulance on your police radio. They said, where did the shot come from? So that's where the picture comes, with us pointing to the building across the street.
After Dr. King was killed, it got pretty intense around there.
They lost their families. One person committed suicide.
But sometimes growth and ambition can wreck a company.
But Dr. King had been killed, and we needed some sense of joy, some sense of strength.
It was just sad. It was like a family member had passed away.
Where you had freedom, you had harmony, you had people working together and not making a difference between each other.
We were trying to do the right thing, and we were concerned with civil rights, and we're taking an active role to show that.
The Stax thing was the greatest thing that ever happened to anybody that worked at Stax.
Once you're part of the music, it's till you die.
I know the film talks about the history of Stax, but it was really the death of Otis Redding and then Dr. Martin Luther King, which was right down the street, right from the studio. And how did that change Stax going forward from that point?
Well, it changed everything. And for people who may or may not know what Stax is, everybody knows the music. I mean, it's Otis Redding, Sam and Dave, Booker T and the MGs, the Staple Singers. I mean, the most amazing Memphis soul music of all time. And what was so unique about it was the label was really a coming together of white people and black people in a city where that did not happen. Absolutely not. And a number of events happened in 1967 that really transformed America and Stax. One of them was the assassination of Martin Luther King just down the street from Stax at the Lorraine Hotel, which was the one place where black people and white people could swim together. They actually, songwriters at Stax would rent rooms to write songs in the motel there. And Otis Redding's death in the winter of '67. And Stax was actually kind of reborn then as a black-owned business. The ownership changed. Al Bell took over the label, and it became this kind of new voice of black entrepreneurship and empowerment, and then it all goes horribly wrong. I mean, it's like a Greek tragedy of a story.
And even Atlantic Records, right, came in and somehow legally acquired the rights to all that music or something?
There were some contract shenanigans that actually ended up depriving Stax of all of their early masters. But this is what I love about music films, is that even though you have incredible soundtracks and incredible singers and artists, it's a story about race and civil rights and a city and a time and a place. I mean, it gets into so many different dynamics of what's going on. And what you really have at Stax is a black-owned label that's now making a lot of money. Isaac Hayes was one of the biggest. He started as a kid in the neighborhood, literally a 14-year-old in the neighborhood who walked into the studio.
And wasn't he the first African-American composer to win the Oscar for Best Score?
Score for Shaft.
Yeah.
But as Stax got more and more power, more and more money, the powers that be in Memphis were not comfortable with a black-owned business having that much profile and that much money. And conspired, I would say, without being too conspiratorial about it. I think it really contributed to the downfall of the label. So you have these incredible stories like that with an amazing soundtrack. That is to do films like that, I could do that forever.
And Memphis is really an amazing place. There's so much history there and so much, content.
I've made 3 documentaries in Memphis.
Wow.
Sam Phillips and Sun Records, the other great Memphis label, and Muddy Waters, which was largely based around the Delta and just up in Memphis. And I've worked a lot with a writer there, Robert Gordon, who's a great Memphis music writer. But it's such an interesting city because it's the crossroads of the North and the South and the East and the West. And it's the city that entire region of Middle America that everybody went to. If you had talent within 300 miles, 500 miles, 1,000 miles, you would go to Memphis. And that's how B.B. King and Howlin' Wolf and Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley all found their way to Memphis. Jerry Lee Lewis, you can go on and on and on. But it was the Mecca for people who wanted to make it, but also not make it in a commercial sense, make it in that they wanted that, but that it was a city that respected weirdness, for lack of a better word.
That's right.
The individuality, I think, is the better word for it. That's something that Sam Phillips and Stax Records were evangelical about, the idea about having your own sound, your own voice, and doing something unique.
Trevor Lawrence is a Jamaican-born, world-acclaimed musician and artist known most as a saxophonist, songwriter, arranger, and producer, working on stage and in the studio with the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, including Woodstock in 1969, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, the Rolling Stones, the Pointer Sisters, Etta James, John Lennon, Ringo Starr, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. He also wrote I'm So Excited, if you remember that, by the Pointer Sisters. He fronts his own group, the Trevor Lawrence Quartet, TLQ, featuring Pop Star Masumi, exploring even more creative musical directions with keyboard virtuoso and, of course, artist Masumi Yamamoto. Rick, Doc, and Wilfredo Wolf Wilson are 2 of the 4 Wilson brothers who, along with Carlos and the late, great Louis, created Mandrill in 1968, an American multi-genre band formed in Brooklyn. The brothers were born there and also grew up in Brooklyn. Their songs have been sampled by many hip-hop acts, such as Johnny D, Public Enemy, DJ Shadow, and more. They combine funk with many other styles such as Latin, salsa, rock, blues, and soul, and continue to perform. Their next album is slated for release in 2018, celebrating 50 years. Amazing. Gentlemen, welcome to the Nowman Show. It's a pleasure to have you here with you. To be here with you.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, my pleasure. We'll start with Trevor. Trevor, you play saxophone.
Yeah.
And you play all types of saxophones? Or?
Yeah. Well, you know, the saxophone. It's the fingering is the same for all of them. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was around 20. I started doing sessions in New York as a musician. So I also played the oboe and the English horn.
Oh, wow.
And the flute. And yeah, I did play now I only play this. Now I concentrate on the saxophone, tenor and soprano.
Tenor and soprano.
That's what I play.
So, when you were in New York, obviously, you worked on some Stevie Wonder albums there.
Oh, yeah. I worked with Stevie. I played on, let's see. I met Stevie right before he did Music of My Mind.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, and so I worked on, you know what I used to do? All of my life, whenever I got a chance to hang out in the control room in the studio, I did it, you know. I started off doing that in around 1968 when I was doing sessions in New York. King Curtis got to know me and he really liked me, so he had me on his dates, and he'd invite me to hang out after the session. So I'd be in the control room with all the great engineers and Stevie Wonder, you know. So, yeah, I like being in the studio. I like hanging out, and Stevie allowed me to hang out with him in the studio when he was making his records. Music of My Mind was the first one, you know, that I worked with him on.
And then after that was Talking Book.
That's right.
And Innervisions.
Innervisions, right, and then Songs in the Key of Life.
Songs in the Key of Life, yeah, that's right. So that's you in the horn section then.
Yeah, that's
Sir
me.
Duke and.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right. It was very funny about that, you know, because I wasn't in the band full time.
Yeah, yeah.
When I first started with him, I was playing with him. I was traveling with him in Europe when they did Superstition. I think that he started writing Superstition there. We did the horns when we got back. And I moved to California in '72, and I wanted to be just a producer. Back then, being a producer was a very unique thing. It's not like now everybody's a producer.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
So I came here to be a producer, and what would happen is that when Stevie had something to do, he had his regular band, but he'd call me to come and join him with the band, you know? And it would always be at 2:30 or 3 in the morning, because Stevie's blind, so the time don't matter to
so
him.
he doesn't know, right?
We need you to come down here. Okay.
Wow. Well, the creative process just works any time of the day. There's
especially for him.
It's not an 8 to 5er, right?
People, I don't know if people realize that at that time, that particular time, around 1972, 71, 70, Stevie, I think that might have been his most creative time, because that guy, you know, he'd go in the hotel room and they'd bring his keyboard and everything into his room.
Yeah.
So he was always creating. Always creating.
Yeah,
you know, one time he even asked me he said, Trevor, I want you to sing the opening on this song. If you can remember the name of the song, I think it ended up being Jim Gilstrap that sang it. I said, Stevie, I don't sing. You know, he said, no, you can do this. No.
Well, you can keep a tune.
No. But anyway, I did work with him. I did work with Stevie.
That's
a
awesome.
lot. Yeah, I love Stevie. Yeah.
Yeah, and so now we have the two Wilson brothers here from Mandrill too. You guys, and you're kind of old friends here. How did you meet?
Trevor's family grew up right around the corner from us in Brooklyn, New York. Yes. So, you know, they were all in the same area.
Oh, so you were in the actual same neighborhood?
Yes,
like, block even.
That's right.
Wow.
I think Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, Ricardo.
Yeah.
Ricardo and me, we're the same age, and we went to junior high school together.
Right. Really?
Yeah. Yes. We were in the same class.
Wow.
We were in this, and we had our first band together called the Sharp Toe.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, right. And you know, I haven't seen Ricardo in 60 years. I just saw him again for the first time in 60 years a couple of weeks ago. Maybe about a month ago now, right?
Major reunion. You know, everything happens for a reason.
It was time. It was time
reason.
for it. Exactly.
That's right. Exactly.
You know?
That's why living in the moment. You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you realize something's happening here, so seize that moment.
You know, we grew up in Brooklyn. We grew up in Brooklyn in the 50s, right? As a matter of fact, I moved to Brooklyn in 1953. Is that right?
And we were born to, yes. Trevor came from Jamaica to Brooklyn in 53. The Wilson brothers were born in Panama.
In Panama, right.
And came to Brooklyn, at least Lou and I, and came to Brooklyn in the same year that Trevor did, 1953.
Oh,
wow.
And then 2 years later,
Carlos and I came up in 56.
I see. I see.
So that was a nice.
Bed-Stuy.
Yes.
We came to Bed-Stuy, and we had an amazing time together. Trevor and I, same class as he said.
And the Sharp Tones.
Yeah, we have a new album getting ready to drop. We'll be doing some touring and all of that.
That's
so
fantastic.
that may involve coming together with all of us in some way, shape, or form. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Absolutely. I mean, 50 years, that's a long time to keep a band thing going. And I worked in record stores, so I saw many of those covers. How can you not? You know what I mean? Like, they get your attention. The Mandrill.
Right.
I'm serious, you know?
Yes.
And we were listening to all kinds of music, you know, and just, you know, it's just amazing that you have, how many records now?
Well, this is going to be the 17th album.
Yeah.
And it's what's amazing is that Trevor and Mandrill, we were both hanging out at the top of the food chain. I mean, when you talk about Trevor touring with the Rolling Stones, with Stevie Wonder, with Marvin
playing on
Gaye,
Trouble Man,
all of that kind of stuff.
Marvin
And
Gaye.
Movie World.
We
Played we've been to the top of the chain in our own way as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, we eclipsed the Rolling Stones record, attendance record in Washington D.C. at a festival that we an RFK's festival.
Excellent.
Back in the day, and shared the Electric Lady studio, Jimi Hendrix's first studio.
That's right.
I'm surprised that we didn't run into Trevor, because when Stevie was recording in that studio, Mandrill, when he left, we would be in, and vice versa.
So it's so unusual that you didn't cross paths.
For me, the new things are playing jazz full time. And I think that, you know, music keeps going forward, and I like to go forward, you know. I've also got a project that I'm shopping now too, which is a book about my musical life.
So we're looking forward to all this stuff, TLQ, Mandrill's 50th anniversary and new album, and so much stuff. This story continues. This is Nice Wonder. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, be present now. Robert Margouleff. He's the Grammy Award-winning electronic music pioneer who's been affectionately called the godfather of electronica. He's an innovative record producer and engineer, audio expert, and film producer. He helped to bring the Moog synthesizer into modern music with Stevie Wonder in the 70s on albums such as Talking Book and his Grammy Award-winning album Innervisions. Along with his collaborator Malcolm Cecil, in 1971 he released the album Zero Time as an electronic duo calling themselves Tano's Expanding Headband, which attracted Stevie Wonder and other leading artists to this emerging electronic music technology. He's worked with Stevie Wonder, Billy Preston, Depeche Mode, Oingo Boingo, Quincy Jones, Jeff Beck, the Isley Brothers, the Doobie Brothers, Joan Baez, Guar, and many more.
I was getting immediate gratification by playing the synthesizer.
Yes.
There was no school. You couldn't go to school or read a book about this is how you use the Moog synthesizer.
Exactly.
One thing led to another, and I found myself at a place called Media Sound, and I was the synth guru.
Yeah.
And that is where I met Malcolm Cecil.
And so then you've created this electronic duo, which you called it yourselves Tonto's
Expanding Headband. Yes, okay. What does Tonto stand for? The Original Neo-Tambral Orchestra. The interesting thing was that it was many musicians playing one instrument, where the programming was interactive.
Right.
If, like, Stevie was playing a bass line, we would make the entire synthesizer transpose with that bass line, so that I could then play string parts. And as long as I played everything on the white notes, I couldn't make a mistake.
Yes, yeah.
Because it would always be in the key of the bass line.
Now, he heard your band. Did he?
Yes, we did. We put out an album. Herbie Mann heard us one night raving away in the studio at night in
Yes.
music and recording in the 70s. It really changed the face of pop music when we brought the synthesizer to bear on the pop music scene. Malcolm, myself, and Stevie were the first to sort of really genuinely explore it. Wendy Carlos was exploring classical music.
Right, right.
Other guys were doing, you know, some Tomita was there, Silver Apples was
Tangerine
there.
Dream.
Tangerine Dream.
Jean-Michel Jarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of those folks came on the scene, but they were all kind of, you know, trying to do space age stuff,
right.
where our music really sort of aimed itself directly at R&B.
And that's where you started with working with Stevie Wonder.
Correct. What happened was we did an album. Malcolm and I were in the studio late one night. We had this big, it was a former church, Media Sound was a former church. And I had the synthesizer on a big sort of rolling gurney in the studio, so it looked very gothic.
Excellent.
And Malcolm and I would go in there at night, and I say, Malcolm, I'm not even sure what we're doing is music, okay? It was really pretty strange.
It didn't matter, though.
Well, it didn't matter. Herbie Mann was in the studio one night, heard it. He was a very famous flautist and had a vanity label called Embryo Records that was distributed by Atlantic. And we put he said, you know, here kid, here's $5,000. Go ahead and make your record. I'll put it out. I said, Herbie, I'm not sure it's music. He said, I think it's music. And Malcolm says, he just needs a little editing. We'll put it together, we'll make it happen. So we put the album out, and lo and behold, it got this incredible review in Rolling Stone.
Wow.
And Steve...
That was 71, right?
71.
Yeah.
And Steve heard it, and the next thing we know, there's a knocking at this door on a Sunday at the studio. Malcolm lived on the 3rd floor in the building next to the front door of the studio, and we looked out, and there was Stevie in a pistachio green jumpsuit with his... with the guy who brought him by. And Malcolm's friend, fellow bass player, Ronnie Blanco. And it started then, and we didn't leave the studio for 5 years.
Wow.
And really what happened is we really were the disruptors of the technology and bringing electronica to pop music.
House one morning, and without any warning, you'll find yourself shouting that love is grand. To hold your girl in your arms is wonderful, wonderful in every way. So they say.